Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this Measurlabs webinar about formaldehyde emission testing according to the new REACH requirements. My name is Fanny, and I'm the head of marketing here at Measurlabs. So I have been the one who has been sending you various emails and so on, and I will be here today acting more as a technical host, while Kimmo is going to be the main star of the show today. And some practicalities. So if you have any questions, please write those in the chat in the meeting, and we will get to those after Kimmo's presentation in the end. We should have good time for questions as well today. And to answer the most popular question of these webinars, we are recording this, and you will get both the recording and the presentation slides afterwards. So if you want to get back to something, it is possible to do so. So then, without further ado, we can move on to the actual topic of today. And Kimmo, would you like to start by telling a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Fanny. And on behalf of me, welcome to the seminar topic, formaldehyde emission testings according to the new REACH requirements. And your host will be Kimmo Kaukanen speaking here. I work as a business unit lead in construction materials here at Measurlabs. Something about my background. I graduated as a mechanical engineering department, and since 20 years I have been in various testing related tasks and positions. During the years there have been many different testing. I have been testing different products, systems, and mainly specialized in fire testing. There has been a lot of technical based problem solving, custom tailored methods and solutions for mainly customers in the building sector for various testings and various problems. Of course, the regulatory demands to testing are quite familiar, EU ones, and of course here in Finland. Some special national regulation is not so familiar, but I will learn fast. And something about Measurlabs here. I have been 2.5 years at Measurlabs and taking care of the business unit named Construction Materials. And Construction Materials unit provides all sorts of services for construction sector, mainly regarding material testing, product testing. System manufacturers can have some system testings. Those are maybe based for CE markings or product development taskings. And of course, these emission testings form an integral part of the testings to know if the products are complying with VOC or formaldehyde testings. So let's go to today's topic. This is our agenda. First, I'm going to speak what is formaldehyde and why is it present in products. Then as a second topic, what are the new REACH requirements and what products do they apply to? Then we jump to analytical methods for formaldehyde emission testings, how to select test methods and parameters, and then of course more technical stuff. Can existing test results be used for demonstrating compliance? And then in the questions and answers section, we have pre-chosen questions that you have sent and some topics that are usually asked. So I will answer them, and then you will have a turn, as Fanny noted, you will have a chance to write down your questions, and then we will go through those. What is formaldehyde and why is it present in products? Formaldehyde reacts with other chemicals and it forms a good formation, so it's widely used. I think we all know that. Of course, the resins could affect the hold on everything from flooring to roof, and that's why this substance is important, and also why we are here. The emissions exist, and that's why it shall be tested. And in construction materials, we can know that formaldehyde can be chemically bound as solid polymer in resins and binders. In finished building products, it can exist as hardened, cured solid, holding fibers together as some kind of hardened substance for keeping the actual construction material intact. Then we have the other means trapped as a free gas or liquid within the material pores and unreacted pockets, and then acting as a raw preservative in wet formulations. Of course, when it cures, it will release some of these content, and this can happen in paints, primers, and adhesives. Next topic: what are the REACH requirements entering into force, and what products are concerned? We can start this topic by noting that the new REACH requirements are entering into force in August, and it's a restriction for indoor consumer exposure for formaldehyde and releasing substances. Formaldehyde is deemed to be harmful for humans, and therefore these requirements are applied to react on building interiors. The regulation doesn't affect other parts outside the moisture barrier in the house, only inside air affecting substances. And the new emission limits become legally binding on August 6, 2026, so quite soon. And the reason is that the Commission regulation is updated, EU 2023-1464, and it updates the REACH Annex as Entry 77. And what is stepping into effect? We have the regulation moving the focus on how much formaldehyde gas actually off-gases into the air from finished products. As noted before, the formaldehyde can be in various stages inside the product or only as an emitting one. So in these test methods and requirements, the off-gassing is then evaluated by the testings. And the REACH Entry 77 then requires that any article placed on the EU market must not exceed the indoor concentration limits tested under the specific chamber conditions. And this presentation here gives quite a generic oversight on the limits, and then if you want to know it based on your product, so we can then have a discussion later on these topics. The special limit for wood-based articles are 0.062 milligrams per cubic meter for furniture and interior road vehicles. And this is roughly the half of the previous standard E1, which was twice as high. And then the indoor articles have an other limit. It's 0.08 milligrams per cubic meter for textiles, leather, wall coverings, plastic foams. And what products do the new requirements concern? We heard already that it concerns the furniture and flooring manufacturers and textiles. Of course, the industry uses formaldehyde massively as a block, and the August deadline heavily impacts, therefore, all sorts of manufacturers, furniture, flooring manufacturers, all sorts of building plates made of wood, MDF, particle board, plywood, of course, textiles and decorations, wallpapers, curtains, foam materials inside homes and offices. And then it can be noted that the next phase is automotive industry, and the deadline for that is next year, August 6th. So there is 1 year time to test the articles. And there are very many exemptions from the test requirements. The test requirements do not apply for articles used outdoors, such as structural timber and outside the building paper barrier, other formaldehyde emitting materials. And of course, second-hand or used articles are also outside the scope. Articles where formaldehyde is exclusively naturally present, like untreated solid wood, and then products which are regulated already under stricter separate frameworks, such as medical devices and PPE, personal protective equipment, and food contact materials. There's also a specified list which can be seen in the ECHA document, so that will then specify out all of the exemptions. And what are the analytical methods for formaldehyde emission testing? What does the testing regulation mandate to be done? And under the Commission regulation, it states that the exclusive testing standard in the legal text that instead Appendix 14 of the regulation defines a strict set of environmental reference conditions that any valid analytical test chamber methods must meet. So it means that there are certain methods that can be used and certain conditions. Many of these methods, what we are discussing here or see here, can be reference methods or non-reference methods, be suitable of testing the actual reach limit, or then be used as a method to maintain quality in the product manufacturing. And if other methods are used that are not mentioned in the REACH requirement, then there are guidelines how to change values or results between these methods and results. And the European Chemicals Agency ECHA released official guidance specifying what established analytical standards fit these criteria. And reference chamber method for furniture, wood-based products to verify compliance on August 6th. The primarily approved methods are EN 717-1 for wood and furniture, and EN 16516 series and other articles in the scope. This is the main method for testing. Regarding EN 717-1 for wood and furniture testings, what is it? It's intended for wood-based panels, determining of formaldehyde release part 1 emissions by the test chamber method. And what does it fit for? It has a certain testing parameters, and it has strict parameters as presented in Appendix 14. it requires placing the test specimen in a chamber under controlled climate conditions. It specifies the relative humidity and specific air exchange rate until steady state concentration is reached. And this is the 28 days test period up to. And then the air drawn from the chamber is analyzed using acetyl-acetone photometry or HPLC. Then we are going to look a bit about EN 16516, which is also used in POC testings and in various testing schemes, also measuring other gaseous substances. And it's assessment of release of dangerous substances, determination of emissions into indoor air. And EN 165-1 is fully acceptable standardized testing parameters. It specifies humidity and loading factors. They differ slightly from EN 717-1. And we can note that EN 16516 can lead to higher measured emission concentrations. So at the later stage of this webinar, we have slides which define what are the differences and how can these results be modified between methods. Rule of thumb, you can directly use EN 16516 results only if the final reading is at or below the reach limit. If it fails or is borderline, then a scientific valid correlation factor must be established to map the data back to Appendix 14's reference conditions, or then retest is required. This is the main sentence. There are also other limitations. Then there are also derived and secondary testing methods for factory quality control. So it is possible to maintain also the formaldehyde testings in quality control. Of course, these primary methods shall be used for the reach evaluation, but then other methods can be used or backtrack to EN 717 results with different methods to show what is the performance level of the emitting substances. Since a 28-day chamber testing is incredibly slow and expensive for day-to-day manufacturing, these methods are allowed to use. And derived test methods are allowed for production control, provided they are scientifically correlated with EN 717-1. And these methods which are being used are EN ISO 12460-3 gas analysis method. This is a rapid test and primarily for wood-based panels. And then there is the standard 12460-5 perforator method, and it measures extraction from the raw materials rather than emission in the air. And this important note for using this method is that a factory can use these rapid tests for internal quality assurance, but if a regulatory authority audits a product, compliance would strictly be judged based on the Appendix 14 reference, so it would mean EN 717 or then other methods which are mentioned there. How about testing for road vehicle interiors? This requirement is stepping into force 1 year later in August 2027. Of course, the focus is now in the August limit this year, testing construction materials, but then in 2027, the entry 77 also regulates the interior air of road vehicles. This means buses, cars, and trucks. And the methods are a bit different. They are designed for full buses and full trucks to be evaluated at once. ISO 12219-1 and ISO 12219-10. There are a bit different sampling methods in these methods with regards to a full chamber method. And it uses the same cartridge and sampling methods. Okay, how to select test methods and parameters. Let's go to look at this topic more closely. So the REACH regulation Annex 14, which specifies conditions and the requirements, it's also noting for these specified parameters, which refer to reference conditions, condition values. It points out the temperature where the test has to be done, relative humidity shall be a certain one, and the loading factor is quite important too. So together, the loading factor and the air exchange rate form the combination for testings, and these two are quite important for the end result, and also in evaluating how a method can be transformed into another method's results. So if you have tested according to the one allowed method and you want to transform the results into EN 717-1 results, it means that these parameters are used, what you see here, then certain reference methods shall be used. And the actual duration in all of these methods shall be until the steady state is reached, or max 28 days. The loading factor, if we look more closely about the tests and how the test is performed, in different methods, the loading factor is calculated that a certain amount of surface of the product shall relate to 1 cubic meter of air inside the test chamber. And the EN 717-1 uses a single fixed loading factor, so it's 1 square meter per 1 cubic meter. And then compared to EN 16516, it uses variable loading factors depending on the intended real-world application, so it can have loading factors of 0.05 or more up to 1. And regarding these loading factors and different parameters, we can know that if the loading factor would be like small, like 0.05, that would mean that a very small surface would be in a very large volume of air. And if the air exchange rate is set to 0.5 times per hour as specified, the area-specific airflow rate increases and it's very high. So when you calculate in EN 165-1 the airflow rate, it would be like 0.5 times an hour divided by 0.05, so it would mean 10 meters per hour, the airflow rate. And in EN 717-1, it would be 1. So these develop a big difference in the results, and therefore the European Chemical Agency ECHA guidelines and establish mathematical correlation between these methods if these different loading factors are used. Of course, the EN 165-1 1.6 standard that's referenced in many product standards. So to be useful for these products, it represents these different loading factors. They can be small amounts of glues or other components that are tested that only form a small part of the actual product. So the loading factors are intended for that purpose. And can past test results be used for demonstrating compliance? How does it go, the correlation between results provided by different methods? The ECHA explanatory guideline for the measurement of formaldehyde releases provides the harmonized mathematical models or reference to it. How does it then work? There's a table which has some regression equations which can be used to find out maximum allowable factory threshold. Of course, we have to know that there are reference methods and then non-reference methods, and also only these methods that are set as reference methods can be used as the actual testing standard for testing the REACH regulation limit. Let's look also closely for all methods. For the perforator method, EN ISO 12460-5, and if the factory relies on extracting formaldehyde from raw wood mass, the standardized ECHA translation to predict the equivalent chamber emission is seen here, the next equation. So it forms the formula based on chamber concentration, perforator value, and then you can calculate the actual result. Would it be according to the REACH limits? Then for the gas analysis method, EN ISO 12460-3, the same method is visible here. And regarding EN 16516 for VOC testings to Appendix 14, it uses a bit different kind of correlation. The EN 16516 operates at a different relative humidity and loading factor than EN 717 Appendix 14. The ECHA notes that EN 16516 structurally overestimates formaldehyde concentrations. And that is not a bad thing, that's a good thing. It will mean that if you have tested already according to this standard, so most probably the results are valid already for the REACH regulation. And in the EN 16516 tests, the limit that you have received and is reported is less than 0.062 milligrams per cubic meter, you're automatically deemed to compliant. No math needed. And if the value is close, but not in the limits, the product might actually be compliant under the Appendix 14. In this scenario, the ECHA allows to apply a downward correction factor, shifting coefficient to normalize the humidity parameters. And there's also this kind of rule that when it comes to the humidity and the loading factors, you can use the ECHA formula, and that will take into action the actual air exchange rate, and that will also give a bit advantage for the methods. So how are how can the old results be used? If you made testings before, can you use the testings now? These rules are set out also in the Appendix 14. Maybe the best takeaway is that all data is only legally admissible if the testing was performed under the conditions equivalent to the REACH Appendix 14 or standard EN 717-1. Old data, technically structured under the right parameters, it can be used. But if old E1 certifications exist and you have the reports, you can check if the limit is met. The allowed amount was twice as much, so it will be cut in half. And old E1 certificate by itself is therefore not a proof of compliance anymore. The old limit was 0.124 milligrams per cubic meter, and now it's 0.062, so half. Perforator values, these cannot be used directly as historical proof of compliance unless there's a possibility to supply the documented verified mathematical correlation curve. To continue about the same topic, old test report only proves compliance for the specific production batch or design when it's done with the non-reference methods. If the production process or resin supplier or wood composite recipe changed at any point, then the actual tests cannot be used anymore. So also the quality surveillance data is important. And aging data, formaldehyde emissions generally decay over time. That means also the test samples, if the test samples are not immediately packed from production or warehouse products, so the actual emissions do not represent anymore the actual product. There are good questions regarding this topic. If the product is provided to the customers 2 weeks after it's processed into a product, so can it be tested 2 weeks after? Because that would represent the actual test conditions when it goes to the customer. These questions are always dealt with the laboratory, that it represents the actual usability pattern of the product. But the method allows a certain period of the tests to be performed inside which the test shall be provided from the actual production of the sample. Of course, the authorities are surveilling also the products in European countries, and they are focusing on compliance for now for articles placed on the market and sold to distributors and consumers. So we will probably see some market surveillance tasks quite soon. So to get to summary, so just as a note, August 6th, important date for wood panel manufacturers, and then August 6th next year for bus material manufacturers, limits which the products shall be deal with for wood-based materials 0.062 milligrams per cubic meter. This applies also for furniture. If you are producing furniture materials or complete furnitures, this will apply, and the other limit is for other indoor articles. And we of course, Measurlabs is a testing provider, so we will suggest to test the products in time. There are still capabilities to test. And exemptions do exist. If you don't know does your product need testing or not, please contact me immediately so we can book a time and look at these testings if it requires or not. And what does Measurlabs do? We provide testing services and expertise for designing testings regarding formaldehyde emissions, construction materials. We are offering the EN 717-1 testings, and the price range is starting from 899 euros and up to 1,083 euros. Turnaround times currently about 4 weeks. We expected that there would be some traffic, but we are still able to keep the timetable, so there are still enough time to carry out the testings. Measurlabs can also offer formaldehyde testings for other substances and subjects. Some other rules and regulations apply for medical devices. These can be tested. The limits are stricter, and then there are some other rules for other products and substances, and these can be also tested. And overall, Measurlabs can provide all sorts of testings, analysis regarding the subject, VOC emission testings, bioclassification, fire testing for materials used for trains, buses, and ships, water vapor transmission testings, thermal resistance testing, aging and weathering, and much more. These are only a few mentioned for the construction materials, and construction materials forms only 1/5 of the services provided by Measurlabs. So there are a lot of things and analysis we can provide. Then I think this is what you have been waiting for, questions and answers. So definitely you can provide questions, and I try to provide answers as best as possible.
Yes, we have a few questions in the chat, but one of the questions is actually same as the first question here on the slide. So maybe we can do these 2 questions first, and then I can take some of the questions from the chat after that.
Yeah. So this same question can be informed in different ways. Does it have formaldehyde? Does it emit formaldehyde? Does it have in the raw materials, is one part formaldehyde, or does it contain formaldehyde? But I have answered here that if you expect that it doesn't have formaldehyde as a substance anymore, so the answer could be yes. You may still need to test your product, but let me explain. Under the REACH regulation, the regulation actually for formaldehyde emissions is set for the released into indoor air, so not just the initial presence of the chemical in raw materials. So this is why I say yes, that it could be that during the chemical process the formaldehyde vanishes, but it can form, as we saw before, different kind of formations inside the material, and therefore it's not said that it would not emit later on of gassing of formaldehyde. And of course the answer could also include that no test is required if it's on the exception list. So it could emit formaldehyde, but if it can be found on the exception list, for instance, articles exclusively for industrial and professional use, so those artifacts do not need testings. So funny, the question was did this answer also answer the other question?
I think so, yes. Yes, the question in the chat was that if we know that formaldehyde is not present in our raw materials, is it still necessary or required to conduct the tests to prove that formaldehyde is actually not emitted?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you have a cat, do you need to prove it's not a dog? So I would say that, of course, if there could be in any other forms formaldehyde, it should be then tested, but the manufacturer is responsible for proving that it's under the limit.
Yes.
So the end question, the responsibility is on the manufacturer who provides the product on the market, that it doesn't go over. If the manufacturer is sure that it doesn't have, so then of course the market surveillance can then prove otherwise.
Yes. Then we have a question from Christina about measurement uncertainty. So do you remember off the sleeve what is the measurement uncertainty of EN 717-1?
I didn't prepare for that. I am sorry. I have to provide Christina an answer later.
Yes, it goes into the details and technicalities.
I have to say that these tests, which normally are on the market, they are made by laboratories which are accredited according to the 17025 laboratory accreditation, and the accreditation then requires for laboratories to show the measurement uncertainty that it's in the scope of the actual standard requirements and of the REACH fulfills the REACH requirements. So in that case, if it would not be there would be then it would not be an accredited test result.
Exactly. Then we have an interesting question from Arno related to the EN 16516 method, and if that is always allowed to show compliance with REACH or not.
I think I have a answer for that here. It's close to that question. REACH requirements vs M1 requirements for construction materials. So M1 uses the EN 16516 testing method, and so if I understood correctly, the question is the same. How the EN 516 method and 717 method differ? Is this correct?
Yes, or if the EN 16516, if it can be always used to show the compliance. So basically, yeah, same.
Yeah. Yes, according to the ECHA guidelines, the methods, the air volume rate differs, and the other parameters could be the same. So there's a formula how to exchange the actual measured value. So normally these results, because the method is more stricter and the air volume rate is higher, it changes the rate twice as much as the EN 717-1. So normally the results are always usable. There can be some small exceptions, but these need to be then checked from the test report. There could be some loading factor changes if it's done according to the EN 165-1 and some product standards which allow some other loading factors to be used. So then it would maybe need some kind of approved formula how to change the results. But normally I would say it is acceptable if it uses the same parameters and conditions as in the REACH requirement.
Thank you, Kimmo. Then we have a few questions related to the correlations between the different methods.
Yeah.
We have also from Arno a question about if we have experience with correlations between the EN 717-1 results and EN 12460-5. I hope you are catching the standard numbers as this in a spoken way.
Yes.
So the question is there an advised method to find the correlation between these two methods?
The ECA guidelines do not give they give advice that you should use a reference method to use that the product is in range of the regulations, and then these other methods can be used for the production control, and there's also reference methods or formulas that can be used without noting in the ECA manual. So you have to have proof that of these reference methods can be used. But since many methods are also used as a production control and are non-reference methods, so for these the acceptance limit cannot be judged. So it has to be done by the reference method.
Yes. Then we have a hand up. Ali, if you want to ask a question live and open your microphone, I think you should be able to do that.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool. We are Hilleberg from Sweden. And the question is that our products are meant to be used on the outdoor, in the outdoor environment, but because it is a closed space that you're using, although you're outdoors, but you're inside the product, right? So does it still apply, or is it an exemption on such products?
That's a tough question. Maybe I try to answer it based off the ECA restrictions. So these rules are meant to avoid people's inside closed room and spaces to be avoided by excess amount of formaldehyde, and these limits are set for inside houses, inside the water barrier.
But one more thing to consider is that all our tents, or any tent around the planet, they are actually designed in a way that there is a certain amount of ventilation in it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a completely closed space.
Yeah.
So is there a limit of how much ventilation is there before the emission versus the closed space formula is applied?
There has been formulas for how to calculate different kind of criteria for usability or usability of these existing formulas and methods for that I know, but I have not been dealing with any methods that would actually handle the space or the outer space. So I think we have to get back to this later on to find some answers for you.
Then I will wait for your answer on this. And although we are using the best material suppliers around the planet, but you can never be too careful, and I would still like to keep a check on that.
That is a good way. I would also say that keep it safe. Of course, the regulations are meant for the interior of the houses in this case, but of course, to play safe is always a good idea.
All right, thank you. Then I'll wait for your answer.
Thank you. I will return to this.
Yes, thank you for a very good question. That's a super interesting topic about how this applies to tenths. So very curious to see what the answer will be to that, because it's for sure kind of a special case in this regard.
Funny, there were some pre-questions, so can I go through those now?
Yes, I think we can do so. Then we have a couple questions still in the chat, but they also partly overlap with the ones that have already been pre-submitted, so we can take these ones.
Excellent. So there was a question, as you see on the screen, does the new REACH formaldehyde emission rule apply to textiles? And the answer would be close to the following. As a general articles, technical textiles, upholstery textiles, yes, but there's a note that REACH Annex Entry 72 in the legislation concerns consumer clothing, footwear, and textile accessories. So this is like an exemption for the Entry 77. So they have another entry which defines a different limit for these articles. And then, can formaldehyde be tested in the formulation products? And I think this is a question of sentencing. If you define a formulation product to be a designed mixture of raw materials and chemical substances combined, such as paints, detergents, adhesives, I would say the answer is yes, definitely. And then if it goes more far away from the REACH envelope for these Entry 77 materials, then I would say it should be assessed of a different entry, or besides the 77, or then outside the scope of this regulation. And if the testing conditions and loading factor is different from REACH Entry 77 requirements, can those results be accepted? And the reference conditions require standardized parameters like the temperature, humidity, loading factor, and the air exchange rate. And if these are okay, the test results can be used as the reference units, reference tests, or then using accepted formulas in the ECA guideline. So if there's a formula how to choose these parameters between different methods, and these parameters apply, so then you can use it. And then non-reference conditions, these are the methods that can be used for quality measurement. These the results obtained with different conditions and loading factors can only be accepted if there's a scientifically valid correlation. So there's a formula how to change between the results. And then last page, are there known substances that will definitely struggle to pass the new requirements? It is said that traditional urea formaldehyde-based articles will struggle to pass. Maybe you in the crowd here have more knowledge of that, if there are some articles that have been experienced difficulties in passing the tests, or maybe you have needed to be changed some articles. So if you have that kind of experience, I would be eager to hear also which products are different to pass, but we know some of them, and maybe the hardest are urea formaldehyde products. And then last question here, REACH requirements versus M1 requirements for construction materials. This we handled already. And if somebody doesn't know what is M1, it's a Finnish mock testing method for requirements, and it's national, but it's also it uses also the EN 16516 method for testing. And if you pass the testing, so these requirements are stricter than 717, so probably you can use the methods almost certainly. So these are all the pre-questions that we received, and there are still some time for questions. Fanny, do you have other questions?
Yes, we can take at least one last question still. Mari asked about samples, so I think this is an interesting one. She's asking, can representative samples be used in the testing?
If I understood correctly, representative, that they are actually not from the same production process. The manufacturer, of course, has to define that the actual test results apply to the actual production units. So I would like to keep the answer there that it always has to be representative sample from the production line. Of course, like the non-reference methods in the production, so they can use different kind of formulas how to transfer the information into the same conditions required by the REACH Entry 77 and Annex 14 to modify the results. So in that case, a product flowing on the production line and having measures with other methods than the actual reference method can of course be used to show the capabilities, but the actual limit should be tested according to REACH regulation with the actual product.
Yes. Thank you, Kimmo. Then we are wrapping up with time. So I want to thank everybody for joining this session and for all the good questions as well. We got a good discussion here. And like I said in the beginning, you will be getting the link to the recording and the presentation slides afterwards. So if you want to get back to something, and like somebody asked if we can link the Appendix 14 also to the email, I think we are able to do that as well, so you can check it yourself also. And you will get the recording probably already tomorrow, unless there are some timing issues. And then if you want to discuss anything more in detail, or if you realize during this presentation that you are in need of testing, then we are of course super happy to help, and you can always reply to any of the emails I have sent or contact us through the website, and we will then take the discussion forward from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a lovely afternoon, everybody.
Thank
you very much.